Father God, we're mindful and thankful for our country, the freedoms we enjoy here in this land of America. We pray that they would continue. We pray for the election and all those involved. We pray for our local government and we pray for our constituents. We pray that you would just direct us and guide us as we make decisions for our county. And head to this prayer, Lord's life. We pray in Christ's name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. Okay. First item of business were the minutes. They were sent via email. Any alterations or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
3-0. Payroll, calendar number 22 for calendar year 2020. Totals $237,181.20. We had 156 claims totaling $492,336.48.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
3-0. Going to change the schedule just a bit, and we're going to bring in Pam to the forefront.
You need me up there?
Sure.
Morning.
Morning.
Yes, I get to leave here and go get a root canal, so.
Oh,
Sorry
Be
for your,
gentle.
sorry for your, sorry for your pain.
would be gentle.
Okay, so I guess each year, I don't know, does someone normally come and ask this every year? Because this is the first time in 22 and a half years I've been here, so.
The way I understand, normally we allocate funds,
Correct.
and an invoice comes,
Okay,
and it's normally paid in February?
Earlier in the year,
Yeah.
okay, who does the invoice come from?
Tammy Slater.
Okay.
And at some point, nothing happened, the pool didn't open, and
Okay. Okay.
last month,
Yes.
in October, an invoice came, she brought it to us, so that was kind of what,
Okay.
kind of
Well-
needed better explanation. since
Well,
the
and
pool
for
didn't
me, this was all set in motion way before I became park superintendent, so, and I know that Mayor Ted, 3-4 years ago, came to you for an increase of that amount. That money that was $5,000 and then increased to $10,000 goes into a fund that we have at the Wells County Foundation that is kind of like our savings account for large things that are necessary at the pool. And like, this would have been our third summer of the new filter system, which we paid all in, including the electrical work that the city did, about $200,000 for upgrades for that. Unfortunately, when we upgraded that, we lost the baby pool because we were grandfathered in because they were on the same filter system. But once we did the upgrade, it was required by Indiana State Health Department codes that it now has to have its own filter system. Well, we can only afford one. So that's why the baby pool is still not open. That is on our list to hopefully get done, but you know, that pool was built in 1973, so heaven only knows what we'll find when we start digging around to change that. So that is a big concern, and that's why we try to tuck money, because there's money from my budget that goes over there every year as well. So that's kind of that. Plus, we have our own pool non-reverting in the city. So not only did we redo the filter system that year, we also did all new gutters, which was about $36,000. The pool house is in need of some updates. We have been doing them over the years. Some people have more of an issue with the concrete block building than I do. It serves its purpose. You go in, you change your clothes, you use the restroom, you shower, you go, that's it. So, I mean, yes, facelift it could have. So just for your information, like, out of my 14 lifeguards, 9 of them were county residents, not city residents. So their salary was a little over $26,000. Pool chemicals, we spent $17,000 and some change for pool chemicals. $372 for pool test, $244 and change for phones. Utilities was almost $14,000. Repairs almost $4,000. Just to start the pool and to close the pool down through Spear Corporation is $1,075 each time. Miscellaneous, like we bought some new chairs, ropes, floats, a new test kit. was almost $4,700. So in total, we spent $66,614.35. That, however, does not include sanitation supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, and cleaning supplies, because we buy that in bulk through our department and just kind of spread it out. We did have 11,670 visitors in 2019, with admissions of $27,941. We brought in $14,363 in concessions, almost $8,400 in rental. So every year we run $40,000 to $40,000 in the red at the swimming pool. And every year when I give my annual report, I remind the city councils and God love them, I mean, the park board, the council, and the mayor have always said, this is a service to our community, and that's how we've always looked at it. I struggled with that when I looked at the budget when I first started, but then I have to take myself out of it as park superintendent and think about it as a mom, how many kids we employ, how many kids go through swim lessons, which is typically 200 to 400 depending on the year. So a lot of kids are safer, and the kids that we take care of all day long. I mean, you would probably not be surprised of the number of kids that are just dropped off without adults all day long, and we keep them there. So we know in our hearts that kids are safer and they have something to do and some place to be, and eyes are on them during the summer. So without all that in, I mean, we're still, including your 10,000, we still lost 16,000 in 2019, again, not counting the sanitation. So that is why we do appreciate your guys' contribution.
So I think the basic, I don't want to say concern, but just the question we had for you was, and
I tried to cover it.
You've covered it for me in terms of that money goes back into maintaining. I think that the question that we had a little maybe concern with was the fact, of course, it didn't open this year. But I understand it still has to maintain.
Right.
So, and I think as long as we know, or at least as long as I know personally, that what you are doing with it,
Right.
I'm good, and I appreciate you taking the time.
No,
to do
that's
We
absolutely
appreciate
fine.
the update, because we just hadn't heard anything.
And
since
that's
Ted was
fine.
here asking for the money, and I was like, this would be a good time to get
I
updated.
would have come every year had I known
Right.
that you would have liked to have heard more about that, but again, it was all just in place when I
Right.
came, so, no, and it is a good service for the community, even as a struggle with when you see the budget, but if you see the day-to-day. And the bigger thing for me is not just the swim lessons, but the swim team. Do you guys realize how
Sure.
big the Wells Community Swim Team is? I mean, that is a huge asset, and it was hard to call them this year and tell them that there was not going to be a pool, although they kind of prefaced that they knew it was a possibility.
Yeah,
So,
might happen.
yeah, and the bad part is I think we were the first in the state to close, and then next thing you know, there were 53 in the state of Indiana that ended up closing this year. Just, we were the first one to rip the Band-Aid off, and I still think it was the right decision, but hopefully, the new administration
Yeah.
will have that going, so.
Good. Well, Mr. President, I make a motion, we approve that request.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Thanks,
All
Pam.
right, thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update. Now, since Scott is not here, yeah, I've got the jail numbers.
And then I'll go ahead and read the bid.
Yeah, go right ahead.
We do have one bid for the 1989 Humvee. It's from Ryan Carroll for $5,450. And those hits just keep coming. And I make a motion, we take it under advisement, wait for another bid.
Second. Yes, we need a motion for that.
I need a motion, and I'll say all in favor.
Aye.
0, okay. And how about the numbers? They're at 90, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe the city needs another take-home.
90 total inmates, 24 pretrial superior, 22 pretrial circuit, 19 are F6, and 13 are DOCs. So that's the update in regards to the jail numbers. So we'll move on to the highway department. Josh. Good morning.
Next few weeks, we'll finish our last round of mowing, and then we'll get those put away at 4-H Park. We've completed our fall patching. That's with our distributor truck. where we mobilize a crew and go around. It's just getting cold and hard to heat oil. We did keep one tank in our Durapatcher just for any mishaps, emergencies, anything we need to do between now and the ground freezing. Few new guys, a lot of people. I got a call last week. It's like, this is weird. Why did a truck with a snowplow go down my road? We weren't looking for snow to plow, but I do have 3 guys running new plow routes this winter. So last week and this week, I'm sending them out with the people that were currently running the routes, so they can learn, you know, where bridges are, where culverts are, where to turn around, things of that sort. Make sure things are marked and they're familiar with those. So if you get any calls about snow plows out when there's no snow, that's why. We are grading the gravel roads. We have a little moisture in them finally the last couple weeks. So last week we hit some of them. The end of this week we'll probably hit them a little harder and just make sure things are, you know, we'll stay on top of it until the ground freezes and there's moisture there. Sadly, we're starting to prepare for winter. We've got our sanders, our drop-in sanders. Last week we serviced all those, so they're ready. So probably the next month we'll start pulling pans out of trucks and just getting the actual walking floor beds ready. And then last but not least, harvest is about done, but like this time of year I was leaving on my update, you know, it's fall harvest, just be cautious. We live in a farming community, so just keep that in mind when you're impatient and wanting to pass someone in a side ditch because they're coming at you with a combine or whatever. Just know that they're doing the best they can to get out of your way as well. One update too that I wanted to, a month or so ago, there was an email tossed to all of the 4 of us around about the intersection, the railroad intersection in Keystone at 1,000.
Yes.
Correct, yeah. Yep.
So I ordered those for some reason. I don't know the rhyme or reason of why, but that is a very busy, you know, from being south. That is one of the, I think it's the only paved railroad crossing with no gates in Wells County. Every other, there's a couple on gravel roads, but that's the only one. Nate's working with some funding for next year, the next couple years, but in the meantime, we went out and trimmed a ton of trees around there.
I was gonna say, drove it, and
We went,
Seemed like-
yeah, we went and cut a ton of trees down around there to open up so that the signage was good. We added, there was one sign in each respective direction. We added another sign on the opposite side of the road. I ordered 24 by 24 big yellow no gate signs that we mounted last week. They finally came in. So with added signs, cutting trees, and at just doubling the signs, moving them in closer. We try to keep signs out of yards if we can, just people don't like mowing around them and everything else. So we moved them back, and there's probably people upset because now they have signposts in their yard, but you know, it is what it is, and it's all about the safety because there are a ton of people from Nottingham Township and East Chester to go to the school. I
Right.
mean, that's just because 1100's gravel, 1200's too far south. You know, I mean, it's
a thoroughfare.
It's
really.
a thoroughfare, really, and I'm unbeknownst to me of why there was no crossing ever put there. I mean, we have crossing gates on 1 West south of Pinedo in the middle of nowhere on a gravel road, but we don't have them there. So, but that was past regime in the past, and I can't change that. But I know Nate's working
Yeah, I
at
think
changing.
it's slated to have that
It's-
done in
yes.
2023, and the person who initiated that request says thank you.
Yes.
Already
yeah.
has mentioned
Yeah,
that.
yeah. We've
Noticed.
done all we can
Yep.
for the time being because what's a crossing cost me?
Oh, 300,000.
Yeah,
And the whole gates and hardware and everything, it's like $300,000 investment.
So it's just a ton of money to do it on our own. So if the feds will help, then we'll wait for them to help. So
Good deal.
that's it.
Thanks for the update.
Yep.
Appreciate that. Move to you, Nate. You're next.
Good morning.
Morning.
Let's see here. A whole list of different things here for me to do. All right, little update, discussion of the Wells County Bridge 193, that heat straightening and painting project is, I think I've updated you all that that's been open for a while now. I am recommending a change to the ordinance that was passed. One, there was an ordinance on the weight restriction lowering it down to 16 tons. Roy's been kind enough, having come back from vacation, to draft an updated ordinance quickly for us to change that 16-ton up to the 36-ton weight limit, as well as adding in a provision for a height restriction. So we will allow semi-trucks to go through that bridge, but we will put a height restriction of 13 foot 6 inches on it. The new gantry will have certain warnings set at 14.6 for impact, and then the bridge. So we've got a series of layers of protection so that we can avoid the impact damage that was done that caused the closure and the previous weight restriction. So I'm recommending approval of that ordinance.
Motion to approve.
Was that 38 ton prior?
No, it should have been a 30. We went from 36 down to 16.
Okay.
Oh,
I just confirmed that. I was thinking it was 38 ton.
The ordinance is 32.
Now it's back up to
32
32.
and 16. You mean
Okay.
before or after?
Before.
Oh, I don't know. We're increasing it to 72 or 36, right?
yes, that's what I had down.
Okay. Just thinking on my side of, putting signs back up that were already existing rather than
Oh.
make new signs. Because I was thinking it was a 38 ton. But I don't want to hold up opening it back up. Wait for that.
Thought we were going back to 38.
You thought it was?
Well, you can only go back to
If
when you
it-
said it's.
If it was
able
previous
to hold.
38.
38, Kevin?
Yeah.
You drove it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm positive they were 38 tons.
That's
There's
what I
like
thought. And
6
I thought,
signs out there.
and Nate and I talked about this, and I
Yeah.
thought we were going to go back up because we talked 38.
I've got to check. I'll have to check the load
Okay.
limits that they had set up for me because I
Okay.
thought it was always the 20. It was a 20-ton swing in that. So,
Yeah, I was thinking 38.
Yeah, and out that bridge particularly, because of all the past with it, literally there's 6 signs out there.
yeah.
Trying to warn people, so I mean, we're talking $500 to change a bunch of signs around if we don't go back to
If that's what was previous, I'd recommend that.
I would personally like to
So,
see
again-
38.
Yeah.
Let's,
Me too.
Only if it's safe, obviously.
Well, and I just got to have to. I will pull the. I'll confirm that.
Okay.
I'll have to. I don't have. Unfortunately, I didn't bring the load.
the US.
The load rating, USA load rating for that. So
Because the feds have gone around and re-rated all the bridges, haven't they, Nate?
correct.
We did that year and a half
So
ago.
how about
Right.
a motion to approve it
Right.
with the correction of the weight according to the load rating up to 38,000?
Yeah, that's
30
not,
tons.
that's not on the signature page, so I'll correct
So we can
that.
update that.
What's
So
recorded.
I will.
Motion, you'll second?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
But it's,
All
right.
but it's 72 to 38,000,
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
if that's what
Yes.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
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 Sorry to wrinkle that.
Oh no, I'm glad.
What's
I'd rather have it
72?
right.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
What's
3-0.
Roy saying is 70, oh, up here, okay.
Yep.
I see. Yes, second.
Yeah, so we'll go 76 and 38.
Hopefully, we don't have to change this
2019.
again for a long time.
2019. All right, what's next?
Second item here on the list, just kind of an update on the White Bridge, Bridge 304 on 450 East. The end vents, the semi-integral end vents that were poured, they've been poured on both the north and south ends right now. We are still trying to stay on schedule. Hopefully here we'll be able to complete the project before Thanksgiving. In fact, I'm trying to work with them on cutting a few days out of the schedule to try to move that up as well. I will probably have a good update for you on your next meeting on the 16th. So we're just kind of weather dependent. Hopefully the rains pass for a little while so we can get some concrete poured. And
This
if it
week's
does
looking
warm
good.
up, if
This
it does
week's
warm up
looking
and
good.
stay dry, then we'll be making some real progress. I don't want to complain too much to them because Primco is also the same company that's doing the bridge on State Road 124 on the west side of town. So they need to finish that one up, I believe, somewhere around November 12th. And then our project will be we'll be doing some pours concurrently with them, depending on their crews. So both of those are big projects for us, and both of them are good early Christmas presents to get those opened up. So just a little update for you on that. A discussion here. I know I'd sent an email out to each of you individually earlier on. I have a list, and I'd say a short list, but it's not that short, of 5 different either bundled projects or individual projects that I'm looking at submitting for federal aid. The NOFA 2026 call opens today, so I can start working on applications and actually filling them out. Well, I do have the completed studies from both USI and Butler, Fairman, and Seifert for the 3 bridge projects that we have listed. And then we also have the USI study of County Road 200 South. 200 South is the interlocal agreement between the city and the county. I believe it's going for county council approval on Wednesday night. So I have it on kind of my plan that that's going to be my number 1 and 2, or 1A and 1B project. Projects 3, 4, and 5 on your list. Bridge 170 is certainly a low-rated bridge that's in need of repairs. Bridge 19, unfortunately, is the immediate downstream structure that's smaller than the bridge that needs to be replaced, and is a cornstalk log jam. So I'm going to do them as 2 applications, but hopefully combine them. Bridge 71 is one on 2 West, gravel road, just south of 300 South. It's a low volume road, but it's certainly, the outside box beams are a concern. Between all of these, this is a big application. There's a lot of different projects between Cume Bridge, LIT, and other funds, whether it's the relinquishment funds of 301 that's used for match. I just want to get an update from you before on the 16th, I'll draft letters of financial commitment will have to be included in the application. I want to make sure you're comfortable moving forward with all 5 before I do that, and draft those and bring them to you at your next meeting.
So the 2 projects on 200 South with the joint city redevelopment committee.
I think with the signatures on the interlocal agreement would be sufficient as a financial commitment letter, but I may
But
just...
those 2 projects would not jeopardize these 3?
The first 2 projects, you're looking at other funds. I can't use Cume Bridge for those. The goal right now would be for projects 3, 4, and 5 to go for Cume Bridge. But that's not going, essentially what I'm doing is I keep leveraging Cume Bridge kind of out farther and farther. It may be necessary during certain years if construction's concurrent at some point to use your current LIT funds, LIT bridges, rather than go for community crossings that year, use this fund, that fund to try to match that. But seeing how much money Cume Bridge has brought in, I think we're comfortable, but there's certainly, we're using a lot of it. I mean, it really is. It's sort of a discussion
Kind of our discussion we had privately last week is there's some ideas being floated around with our lit money, and I can't discuss it openly because it's just preliminary. And my feeling right now is I would rather hold back on this right now. But can we wait till our next meeting? When's the deadline?
Our deadline for this
December
would probably
11th?
be your, no. I think it's December, I'd have to double check here. I think it's the first Friday in December. So I will need a decision on November 16th.
December 4th or the 11th, so.
Or, no, I'm sorry, November 16th for that December deadline. So that'll give me some time to get an application in, get review comments back from NDOT if they have any. I would hope for none, but certainly it would be my goal to start drafting these applications.
I like doing our infrastructure improvements and keeping stuff in queue, because that was stuff that has never happened, and we're working on it. But I don't want to get it so we're leveraged that doesn't give us the flexibility of other.
And I'm pointing it out because with these projects, if you were awarded these funds, nothing really gets spent in 2021 even, because really it's just negotiations and selection of consultants. So there's a period of time to try to make different things up, but
Right.
I don't want to put us in a position where you're committing to money in 26 that maybe you don't theoretically have, or there's other interest. So I want to be cautious. This is a big ask. I mean, the your major project there with the joint project is a significant request. I suspect that being concerned about something that may be nothing. Your likelihood that you're going to get all these projects is extreme because we're going for so much. I mean, you're well in excess of $11 million in all these projects. It's a huge ask between all of these. So,
What's the average? ask?
Typical ask is less than $2 million. Most communities our size are asking for 1 or 2 projects at most. This is massive.
Will it be detrimental for us to add these in top of what we're trying to do with the 200 South project?
No, you're just prioritizing them. Essentially, you'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like I have it here. One key is just making sure that we're looking at the priority list. NDOT may jump down a priority list because of the money they have available, not because they're ignoring your priority. If they have enough funds to fund projects 3 and 4,
Gotcha.
but not enough for number 1, at least you got projects 3 and 4, and then you go back with 1 and 2 again. And that would be part of our discussion with NDOT. And they also have certain amounts of funds that are prioritized for road projects versus, say, bridge funds. And so they may have from Federal Highway requests or recommendations that they want to see local bridge projects prioritized. So they may have certain pot of money that's just for bridges. And so 3 and 4 would be there. And I've submitted projects to NDOT that get rejected, and then we come back to them through community crossings, and then they're funded. White Bridge is a perfect example of that. We did it for quite a bit less money because we did it through community crossings, but it did make us wait some time to get that done and in the queue.
Okay.
So
Let's revisit next meeting.
Sure. So I want to make you aware of it. There's certainly some time. If you've got individually have questions for me, let me know. I don't want to go through all the different reports here, but I have them if you'd like to meet and review those. So, but yes, I would definitely like to have a decision the 16th to give me some time. So, all right. Thank you. All right. Another big item here is the speed limit ordinance. Each of you have been sent a copy of the speed limit tables. Josh and myself, the sheriff, actually the city police department all have had an opportunity to kind of review speed limits in and around Wells County and around the city of Bluffton, or unincorporated areas. Rather than just do individual ordinances for each zone, this kind of takes a different tack, and we're looking at one large table that covers the entire county, and each zone is kind of identified within that. It makes updates a little bit easier because you're always doing kind of a holistic review of your speed limits when you're doing that, because you've got the whole table when you update it. This does quite a bit. We attempted to, consolidate speed limits when possible, try to keep them within certain zones based on Indiana code. Also, we tried to remove some limits that made no sense in ordinance and had actually not been signed. The updates that might be noticeable or most noticeable within this is, like at Southern Wells Community Schools, the speed limit and speed zones had not been extended since the school had added additional entrances further south, closer to the fire station. So the speed limit zones actually didn't start where their entrances were. So we've extended those speed limit zones down farther south along 300 West, Old 303, to try to accomplish that. So we've made some modifications there. The biggest one, obviously, is the designation. We've actually gone through. Indiana code identifies an urban district as a zone with a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. We've never identified roads that fall under that designation. So this goes through and looks at areas like North Oak subdivision, which is county area, but it's really an urban area. Toxin, some of the roads within Toxin, Craigville. We've gone through those county-named roads and identified them with that urban district designation. So that's the major kind of consolidation of those areas, Murray, Liberty Center, kind of accomplishing that. And also, within our ordinance, we've also adopted language specific from state law or state code that identifies that all alleys and unnamed county right-of-ways would fall under a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit. So those are the biggest changes for the most part, but this does clean up a number of odds and ends. Hopefully, there'll be new signs that'll have to go up. but we certainly didn't try to go through here and target areas. We actually did clean up quite a bit within this. So certainly it's up for discussion. If there's some revisions or modifications that you'd like to see to these areas, certainly we'd like a chance to try to review those. Some of those we look at sort of obvious locations for the speed limits to start and stop. But we try to limit the confusion that we had.
Well, I just had the one issue with the one zoning with the designated 600 east on 200 north. I wanted to start just east of the Troxel equipment, not going out another mile past that. Just
Yeah, because I think what you had said is Troxel's
other than that,
just
there's a
east of
couple
5
small
East.
ones, I think, but so,
I don't know what you guys think of the 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Southern Laurels. 5 p.m. may or may not be enough to cover when students are there, and 7 a.m. on a Sunday, they're not going to be there. So, I mean, does that really make a good logical use of
Yeah,
time? But I just thought that was weird.
There are some, and this was a carryover of the current ordinance. This is
It
one of the
was.
things we carried over.
thought it
Something
was
that
kinda
could
weird
be
when I drove
done that we've discussed with the sheriff's office briefly was the concept of saying, well, this is the speed zone when children are present, but then it's the question of when are children present? Only when they're coming and going, so like in the middle of the day it doesn't apply. Or what we could do is we could try to invest in flashing LED signs and then say that when flashing. That's a change that we could make, and that would be a recommendation that I would say is that if the decision's made to invest in that, then we would change the language in the ordinance at that time to like when flashing.
Who would turn those on and off, though? and who
Well,
forget
we
to
would
turn them off?
automate that a little bit, and people are actually surprisingly good at telling us even when one LED is out on a flashing sign out of all the corners.
That's good.
So they watch it pretty good, and
So what would be different on 224 and Laurel Road when they have their zones kind of coming through there?
there's currently flash, and 224 would be regulated obviously by the
Correct.
state. So,
Right.
so their speed limits, and they've actually got, I think, their speed limit set up where it does say, hey, when flashing. So that would be we would be following that sort of model if we were to adopt that
That's
on
what I
this.
was wondering.
Yeah, and for this, we don't change anything on what 100 East Norwell Road. That zone is essentially stays exactly as it was in the ordinance. Issues around, and I think we did clean up a little bit of the language on 3 North, East-West near Lancaster Elementary School. So we kind of try to cover that. That's certainly something that we've just left as is. Certainly the notes in urban area identifications kind of try to call out specifically why the speed limits were there. There was language in the Code of Ordinances where 200, I think it was 2 West near the old landfill, from 124 all the way to 218 was in your ordinance with a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. Still,
Trucks used to run that.
Yeah.
Trash trucks. Used to
So-
run that gravel road to Hammer Down, so they had it in there.
yep,
Makes
But now
sense.
the landfill's closed, so.
and has been for years. But the ordinance still was in place, but the signs had all been pulled. So we felt it was within our rights to go ahead and say we're going to eliminate the ordinance. The speed zone essentially doesn't really apply at this point. The factors that kind of applied to that. And there's some areas where the speed limit didn't quite make sense until you started looking at the roads, the connecting roads, and so adding that notes in urban area were key. For example, an ordinance that we passed not too long ago was for Bridge 66. So we've added that there out in front of Jack Pace's old place, specific because of the damage that was done by traffic coming down and impacting the bridge. So,
There's a lot of signs out there that there's no ordinance.
so.
So like the past regime was like a scare tactic. Like at Zanesville on 300, it goes from 55, there's a 45, right by that trailer park.
Mhm.
There's no ordinance for that 45. Technically, it goes 55 to the town limits at 35. But people were complaining that traffic was going so fast across that bridge, and then there's no time to decel, and it was a speed trap at that graveyard. So the past regime just went out and put a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit sign in front of the trailer park. Well, this summer I checked the ordinance. There is no ordinance.
It's included.
That should all be in there, and if because it's such it's every county road we try to review, and so it's so many different areas, we'll look at this regularly. I'd
So we
prefer
can
to
approve
look
it
at
with
this ordinance.
modifications, or bring it up at next meeting for a final.
If you want to make a modification to, say, that specific location of 2 west, simply go from 6 east to 550 east, I can update the table and issue that. I'll just redate that table, if that's what you'd like to do. If you'd like to wait another 2 weeks, certainly. I'd like to look at this and at least be open to review the speed limits on a regular basis. I mean, it's part of our safety planning that we should be doing. I'd like to look at that. Chasing accidents isn't necessarily our goal. I don't want to be too reactionary with this because you just cannot predict fatalities and accidents. We want to look at the nature of the roads. That was our goal with this, was to try to be very kind of review it overall. And that's better for your driving public, essentially. Look at the conditions we're dealing with. And as we do improvements, there may be reasons to raise limits up. But overall, as development continues to sprawl, you see new developments, new entrances, you're going to want to be willing to and in a position to make adjustments to this. And that's what this template sets up for you.
I'm wide open, whatever you guys.
It's so far
I think it's
out, it's so far out of date now that my thought process was, let's at least get this through so that the hundreds of signs that are already plastered everywhere are actually legal
Yeah.
and correct. And then like the school that Tammy said, like, there's gonna be areas that need more of a, you
So
know.
I'd make a motion to pass it with the modification that you just mentioned at this point, and then to review it periodically hereafter.
I think that periodic review and these types of discussions based on input from law enforcement and highway county engineers, also part of your due diligence on your sovereign immunity. You know,
Yes.
Correct.
And our asset
You've,
management.
you've,
plan
exer-
needs
you've
that.
exercised a conscious decision rather than just pass it and
Yes.
not paying attention to it.
There's been probably 2 or 3 meetings that I've had with different individuals specific to this. We've actually reviewed this with NERC, who does some of our traffic studies and analysis. They felt that we were well within our rights to make this kind of overall review. We weren't just targeting a certain location. We're looking at safety holistically for the county. That's certainly our goal, to do that. We didn't go through and just raise limits arbitrarily. That would put us into a position of liability. There were some very specific reasons for the improvements that we put in to this. So,
And no truck signs are the next project.
yeah, we need to address no truck signs and.
Hundreds of those out there, and I don't know, but about 3 of them have an actual ordinance.
So.
They're just all scare tactics. Like, oh, Betty doesn't want a truck on the road, let's just go put a sign up. Just hope they don't go down that road. Well, we need to review that a little more.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason, it's a mess.
So we need to look at that. That's something for next year that we'll be looking at specific as far as planning and development.
So we got a motion.
I'll second.
Change. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3-0.
This is
20.
2020.
20.
2020.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Now I've lost my paper here looking at the ordinance, sorry. I've got a utility permits, actually 3 different utility permits submitted. Roy has pointed out that they used an older form for that application. I'm just requesting approval of the utility permits. They're kind of blanket across the, let's see, Rock Creek, Union, and Lancaster townships. They're different service drops, road crossings, and the like.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3-0.
And I've got a placeholder here for right-of-way dedications. I did not have any.
I have 3.
You have 3, okay. So,
Well, one was from last time, but Colin isn't a notary, so the commissioners acknowledged to me that they signed it last time. So I got 2 new ones.
2 new ones, all right, so I'm recommending approval.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
All right. Well,
3-0.
Appreciate it. A lot of discussion. Any other items that we need to review? Updates? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nate.
Mr. Gregg, you are up next.
Good morning.
Morning.
I've asked to come before you to ask permission to use this room on a regular basis for the purpose of basically devotions for any county employee, myself included, but any county employee that would be interested in doing so. I've talked to a pastor up in Ossian at the Lutheran Church up there. He's expressed this was an interest of his. I expressed that I was kind of interested in having an opportunity to gather regularly with other county employees that might want to do so for the purpose of just a short devotion and prayer if we need it for ongoing issues that might be going on amongst employees. I'm not looking for any endorsements. I'm just asking to borrow the room, turn the lights on, unlock the door. We would be done by about 10 till 8, so we can be at our stations. And I just rather than just do it somewhere, I'd rather get your permission to be able to say I can do that. So that is my request. And
My only reservation would be is if it's not legally a good idea. That's-
agreed.
I mean, no different than use of plaza as the Christmas time, so.
There's no
If
reason
someone-
not to, then I would make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
3-0.
With request if the police sanitize it down, I'm sure everything's shut afterwards, of course.
Agreed. Yep. And obviously, if the room is to be used for something else or somebody else has a business related, we'll obviously yield.
Yeah, if it's available.
Exactly. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for your patience, guys. You're up next.
Thank you. I'm here today before the commissioners. I am prepared to resign my position as the 911 director for the county, and I would recommend that the commissioners appoint Mike Miller to that position. As you may or may not be aware, Mike has been just recently retired as a sergeant with our department after almost 25 years on the road. Before that, he did almost 5 years in our dispatch center, answering 911 calls to start his career. The room has changed some. The mission remains the same. Take the calls for emergencies, get the right people at the right locations. Mike will be a lot more intimately involved in that room. He is hired now to be the supervisor for that dispatch room. So he will be more intimately involved with the workings of that room, not just the employees, but the hardware and software that's involved now. So that is my recommendation to the commissioners today.
I make the motion to accept your resignation and the appointment of Mike Miller to serve in that capacity, and thank you.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3-0.
Certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Good luck, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kyle.
Okay. Let's run down our other business.
Meeting dates for 2021, they are in your packet, and I emailed them to you. There's a whole bundle of stuff.
Christina, motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
3-0. Okay.
There was a request for the plaza.
Aaron mailed me that, and you emailed me that.
Right.
With a Christmas or tree lighting ceremony. Oh,
November 27th.
yep.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
3-0.
Would you like to talk about a certificate sale for our tax sale properties that didn't sell?
Roy brought something up in one of them, is the liens, is there city liens on some of them because they were demolished and?
Right, and
Actually,
Pam is
the
here.
vast majority.
Pam is here from the treasurer's office if you have
I was
questions
gonna
about any
say,
of those.
Of the list, how many have a property still on it?
One?
Or a structure, you mean?
Yeah, structure.
Are you saying how many have a lien from the city?
No,
Or-
No,
of the ones that have a lien from the city, I assume if it's a lien for demolition of an unsafe building, there's no.
There's nothing left.
There's no safe building left.
Right, I don't think there are any buildings on it, but, there were, in that list I emailed you, one of them that didn't have any liens at all.
Yeah,
was
I
property tax.
sent that to Kathy, and I think the response was pretty well all of them, and you can tell by the amount. That doesn't make it any difference. I mean, I'm just saying that that's the reason. So, as I understand it, you can sell the tax sale certificates, or you can go through the motions and the requirements of what you have to do for the commissioners to actually get a tax deed. You just don't get, here's your deed, you still have to follow the state procedures to do that. I thought I had, and that's certainly up to you, but if this is, for the most part, due to what the city has invested, you could, I believe, assign the tax sale certificates to the city, and then they can figure out what to do. I know the city attorney knows how to apply for a tax deed, because in his civil office capacity, I got last week an order for the prior year's tax sales. That's just a thought. I mean, you can say, I don't care if it's sold because the city had that kind of investment. They're not doing anything. So your options are sell the certificates at a tax certificate sale, or go through the procedures to obtain a tax deed, or I think in the tax sale statutes, there's options for you to transfer it to nonprofits or another government agency, or just some ideas, obviously, for you to decide.
what happens to the debt on the tax, whether it's the lien to the city or lien to the county? You say it's 26 grand, nobody is gonna probably bid 27.
That's why the tax certificate to the county is one way of wiping it clean.
Right.
You can turn it around and flip it and sell it, and
At any price.
and there's, you determine the price.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm
And
wondering.
that's
Money
what,
out of
that's
it
what
comes
SRI
back in
told
tax
us
book
is,
for
you can have a
future.
tax sale, you just have to tell him what price you wanna set for that lot. And I believe when he was here, they said, I don't know, they get 10% or something like that. You know, the fee to SRI is a percentage of the
Right.
proceeds.
So are all the ones that we're looking at here inside the city if we did give them to the city? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that's an option.
But, I mean, you don't wanna give the city something that's not inside the city.
Oh, right. I
So
mean,
are
I'm
all these
assuming,
inside the city?
I'm assuming if it's a city lien, it would have to have been
I
in the city
started that,
limits
but
for
I
the
didn't go
city to
through
tear it
each
down.
one.
Yeah. I mean, that would probably be the cleanest, easiest thing to do, is just any of them that are inside the city do that.
There is one that has a building on it, it's a garage, but it's always been up for tax sale since I started working here, and nobody's ever bought it. It's a garage, it's actually attached to the house on another parcel, but.
Yeah, I think we had an
it's
inquiry
only
on that,
taxed. It's
and
not-
to transfer it to him, he would have to have a homestead exemption, and it was a rental property for him.
Right.
So we couldn't transfer it to the adjoining landowner, because he doesn't live there. He
Right.
owns the property, but it's a rental. I don't make the code, I just,
Right.
read it.
But if you did a certificate sale, you could sell it to him?
Well, you could sell the certificate and he could buy it. There's no requirement. You just can't give it to him. The whole point of all this is you year after year, these properties are up for sale, nobody buys them and nothing is done with them. And the point is to try to get them into productive use.
Right. Did you go through each one individually and see which ones are in the city and which ones aren't?
Yeah.
Can somebody do that for next time, or do we have to decide
No.
today?
I don't think you have to decide today, but
Let's decide this postpone it to our next meeting.
But I have had some email discussions with Tony Crowell, the city attorney, about this, and I know he's talked with the mayor about it, because I saw an email, and
I like your idea, if it's in the city and it's got a lien with the city and the county, just the parcels, parcels that
Do the
they're.
certificate sale, much love.
When I talked to SRI about it, he just said that the commissioners needed to make a decision before the end of the year, and then if you wanted a certificate sale, it'd be in the spring, March or April.
Gotcha, okay. Thank you, we'll bring it back up.
The one with the garages in the city.
Is that the one on West Wiley or something?
That's a Tristle one,
No, you might want that for it.
Wiley and Oak, there's one with something and a.
I know he approached Treasurer, he approached Kathy about it. And Kathy, that's what prompted all this.
This Tristle one is not that one on the corner that did Devon or whatever that guy's name.
Okay.
That's a different one.
Different one? Okay.
That one doesn't have a property or any building on it. So this Tristle one has got this one with a garage that's
Oh.
actually attached to a house. Got.
Just needs to be
Next
reviewed.
to the breezeway.
Yeah, looks, okay, Christmas,
You wanted to discuss carry-in versus.
I've already discussed that.
Well, you wanted to talk about Christmas again this meeting. We talked about Thanksgiving.
That we said cooked and covered and buy the salad.
Yes, that was Thanksgiving.
that's Thanksgiving.
Well, what's Christmas?
Christmas, usually we do a carry-in. Everybody makes things, we bring it in. You said no carry-in, so you wanted to discuss what we wanted to do, if anything. I
Just
mean,
get some Hirely's donuts and have it in the afternoon, right?
I was gonna say, we don't know where we're going with this. I mean, it seems like we're taking a little ramp up. And, maybe it'll peaking and heading back down, but doubtful, but. What do you think?
Christmas is not lunchtime, it's the 2 o'clock one, right?
mhm.
I'd say buy some donuts and do it just as a snack or something. I wouldn't do.
I would yield to the doctor on that one. Less is more.
The Grinch.
Hot chocolate, coffee, cider, wassail, whatever, and donuts or something.
Something.
Bonnie Fallon had sent,
With the WOW.
Mhm.
Love those, yeah.
requesting permission to have him go to their office to sign.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
3-0.
That's all I have.
Is it okay if I discuss briefly the highway?
There was an agreement, not a, there's no agreement. There was a proposal that Mike Mossberg was willing to sell property to the county, and he would be interested in the site at the end of Washington Street, which is the 100-year-old highway site. The county did not spend money on a test of soils and things like this to determine give me the word, contamination. So we're bringing it up only from the standpoint that there's ideas running out there, and probably needs to go to council at some point if we decide to accept or come up with an agreement for Mike. So I'm going to leave it at that, but we can maybe discuss it at our next meeting, That way, council, if they have any consideration or time, want to give us a call, get a little more detail if they can individually, of what kind of we're thinking. But if we act on it at our next meeting, we would want the council to act on it in December, so it's out there. We're
Well,
working
since
on it.
it's an agreement to sell county property, and the amount of the value exceeds a certain amount, it's the commissioners to decide that, but council has to prove it, so it may make sense to at least consider addressing that issue beforehand with council rather than go ahead with something that they're not willing to accept.
Spend our time and effort and all that stuff. I know we've been in position, we need a highway garage in the worst of ways and money to make it work, so that's the goal, to make it happen, so we'll leave it at that, so. Other than that, we've got a lot of good things happening in the background in the county. We've got an election tomorrow, go vote. And,
Just once.
Correct.
Right.
And then try to be content with whatever the results might be, so, I don't know. We'll leave it at that. I'll pass it around the room. Anything else?
Nothing.
Okay. Lise? Jessica? No. Audience? Hearing nothing? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
We're done. Thank you.